Yeah. Hello and welcome to this special edition of the Federal. The second and final phase of polling ends in Bihar today. In fact, has ended just now. 3 days from now, on November 14, when the results are out, we'll get answers to many questions that has bedeviled the high stakes campaign. First of all, the question is who is likely to triumph? Nitish Kumar, the incumbent chief minister, or Tejashwi Yadav, the young challenger? Since polling has shattered past records and may end up with overall poll percentage above 65%, we are likely to see, are we expecting to see something else? Can Prashant Kishor play the role of a spoiler as many expected at the start of this campaign? Or would he end up as an apprentice who has to work more till the next elections? Also, we'll find out what the exit poll conducted by various television outfits say. To discuss this and more, I'm joined by an eminent panel of journalists and an academic. I'm joined by Anand Sahai, senior journalist and columnist, Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay, author, journalist, and columnist, Professor Sanjay Kumar from AN College, Patna, and finally my colleague Puneet Yadav, who's the political editor of the Federal and has traveled Bihar to study the ground situation. Welcome to the show, all of you.
Thank you.
First up, I'll start with the exit poll, which has come out. Various channels have come out. First is Times Now. It has given a range of 135. It has given ranges 135 to 150 for NDA, 88 to 103 for Mahagathbandhan. You can see it on your screen. Suraaj Party 0 to 1 and others 3 to 6. We also got other results. I'll take one more, NDTV. It has given a range of 133 to 159 to NDA, Mahagathbandhan 75 to 101, Jan Swaraj Party 0 to 5, others 2 to 6. These are two English channels which are given the number. I will read out others as well because they seem almost on similar lines. ABP has again given NDA 147 to 167, Mahagathbandhan 70 to 90, and others 2 to 6. ABP is done with the Chanakya. And then we have News 18. They have given NDA. These results are slightly different. 60 to 70, and in Mahagathbandhan 45 to 50. I'm not clear how this is. Maybe the results are still coming out. It's, I think, probably still being discussed. So we leave that out. Let me just take the first two, which I earlier read out. First two English channels, NDTV and Times Now, which again are saying that NDTV, NDA is likely to be on the lead. Now, how do you react to this? I must say with a caveat that it's only exit polls, and how much one can rely is a big question. But still, these are these could be indicators of what is expected. So I'll start with Anand Sai. What's your view on this?
Srini, to be frank, I have been, not only today, I have been very, very skeptical of exit polls generally in our country. This is for a variety of reasons. One is, it is my firm view that while they can get it right, but so can you or I get it right sitting in the ease of our homes, because we just say what we want to say, while there is no pressure on us exists. All of these people who are conducting exit polls are the very same companies and groups which typically enliven our evenings every single day with so called discussion on news and current affairs. And we all know what that's all about. I think there is an agenda to which they play. If they get it right, they have fluked it. There is no saying, whether there is any basic science or any basic foundation to what they are saying. The polls that you have shown us today are all running in a particular direction. So if they get it right, big congratulations to them from me. And but I would still not be sure about the methods they used. What I do know is that similar companies, I'm not sure if these were the exact same ones, but similar companies last year got the Lok Sabha election hopelessly wrong, completely wrong. 2004, they got it completely wrong. 2009, they got it completely wrong. Completely wrong.
Right.
So,
I'll
and
yeah.
yeah, let me stop there. Otherwise, we can carry on this discussion further.
Right. So I have more numbers now, which is People's Pulse, it's and Dainik Bhaskar and Metris. I've already read out Times Now and ABP. All of them are giving a similar, almost the indication is very clear. It's NDA plus, which is getting a majority, very clear majority, and Mahagathbandhan somewhere around 70 to 90. The highest perhaps is 103 given by Times Now. The others have been relegated to a few numbers. Probably Jan Suraaj party also sits somewhere there. Nilanjan, what is your view on this? How much you differ from what Anand is saying?
No, I would broadly endorse what he said. Credibility of the polling agencies. I was just looking up as you were preparing for this program. Who are these, you know, polling companies? So one or two of them, I did not find even a word. There was one company, Mattress, I think, which said in its website on the About Us section that they had conducted opinion polls on a certain about 8 to 10 different SMD elections, but they do not have any Lok Sabha election to show, which means that they are comparatively new in the business. The people who are shown in the website are names and photos, but as professional journalists, as somebody who has tracked opinion surveys right from the time that it was started about almost about 4 decades ago, I do not recall these names. And I would say that in the Modi era, I have seen new names come up every election, conducting surveys, opinion polls, exit polls, and then that is the last that one can hear of them. So I'm not very sure about the credibility of these agencies. And then also, if polling is over today at 6 p.m. or 6:30 p.m., how can you have very authentic surveys unless you close it up, wind it up very early in the day? So is that the scientific approach that you take samples from the first phase till the end of polling, but in the second phase, because you want to beat the other channels in the race, you say that okay, we will take samples only till 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. or 12 p.m. and then do your calculations and project it.
Yeah,
What Anand said that they are all in one direction, there has actually been a suspicion, you cannot have proof of these matters, that these are very deliberately done at the behest of various forces, including from the government. Between now and the day of counting, they want the market to be stable. By market meaning, I'm saying the stock market.
right.
So I can hazard a guess, that tomorrow morning, based on the exit poll surveys, we will see, a boost, a certain spike in the market value. That's what is likely to happen. So I guess this
Okay.
is the same story every election, but it is well possible that this might well be the final election. But I would not say that these are scientifically deduced, results.
Right. Dr. Sanjay Kumar, what's your view on this?
Uh, In my opinion, these surveys cannot be true because today's voting till 5 p.m. it was all around 67.5%, and mostly in the Simanchal, in the Muslim-dominated area, it is around even 70%. So still 1 hour is to go, and the final just data will come after 6 o'clock. So before the second phase closes, it will be very difficult to just project this type of survey, or in my opinion, and in most of the times. So far, Bihar is concerned, these surveys have been proved very wrong. So in the first phase, in my opinion, there was neck to neck fight. But in the second phase, it is almost swept away by Mahagathbandhan. So if you just add these two phases, so it clearly projects that Mahagathbandhan is going to lead. Uh, Whether it will be full majority for them, it is very difficult to predict. But chances are that there will be hung assembly, and in that situation, what will come out? It is very difficult to say right now. After just a gap of 24 hours, it can be said definitely, or we can guess, and we can just calculate, we can just speculate these things, and we can say, definitely can say, that in which direction the entire election is going on. Yeah, the just that can be said only after that.
Right. I'll go to Puneet quickly. Puneet, there is one word which he used, that there could be a hung assembly. And I did not want to use that word. That's why I said uh, whether it is Nitish or it's Tejaswi or some other direction, because, because of this high voter percentage, I was wondering, it does it, is there a thing where you have a high voter percentage and still becomes hung? That's why I was a bit guarded. What do you think might have happened?
Yeah, well, I think today's polling would have surprised quite a lot of people, Srini, because one, of course, uh, perhaps good news for the Mahagathbandhan. If you look at only the 24 seats of the four Simanchal districts, uh, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, by around 3 o'clock, Kishanganj was already at 65% polling, or 62% polling. Araria was at 62%. Katiyar was at 60%. This is 3 o'clock figure. So once the actual consolidated figure comes out, perhaps in just these four districts of Simanchal, where the Grand Alliance was expecting a far better show than last time when they won only 7 out of 24 seats. Uh, you know, the scenario might be very different from what it was in 2020. And those were four districts that I traveled very extensively and came back just earlier this week from there. The mood there was very clearly in the Grand Alliance's favor, barring a few constituencies. In Purnia and in Katiyar district, but otherwise, by and large, at least those four constituencies, four districts, things were very, very decisive in the Grand Alliance's favor. The other thing is, even if you look at the other districts that where polling happened today, whether it is East Champaran or Kaimur or Rohtas or any of these other districts, including districts where which have traditionally been very strong for the NDA, or particularly the BJP. Also, the voting percentage varies in the sense of districts more favorable to the Grand Alliance having a far larger turnout of voters, whereas districts where you see, which are traditionally more prone to vote NDA, while the voter turnout is higher than 2020 or any of the previous elections, it's still much lower compared to the other, to say a district in Simanchal. And and overall, by 3 o'clock in the afternoon today, the 2020 57% voter turnout figure, which 5 years ago was the highest in Bihar, had already been broken. So it has been a very high turnout of voters across both phases, and one can draw any conclusion from it right now, because if the exit poll guys, we're also sitting and basically trying to second guess what the voters have done.
Right.
But
Yeah.
on the at least the figures that I see on the screen, in terms of the exit poll, they do not reflect what I could see on the ground.
Right.
I wouldn't say that the election was decisively in favor of one alliance or the other, but it was also not so one sided as these figures suggest. It was a much tighter, much closer election, almost as close as the one in 2020.
So we'll further discuss it. I'll take the issues one by one. Before I go further, let me just read. If we do a poll of polls, since all have gone in one direction, I don't think it's much of a difficult in doing that. NDA gets in the range of 138 to 155 seats. Mahagathbandhan 80 to 97. The JSP, that is Jan Suraaj Party, which is debuting 0 to 1, and others 3 to 7. That's a poll of polls, a tally. Now let me come to this question. Higher turnout. I'll ask Professor Sanjay to weigh upon this. There are a number of issues in the run-up to this campaign. One is the vote theory campaign, which is done by Rahul Gandhi, and which is kind of also disturbed many people, because the citizenship question was prominent in many voters' heads. And then the migrants, so many of them probably came back to vote, and because of this campaign, awareness was much more, probably, and also it coincided with the Chhat Puja, and some of them might have stayed back to vote in the polls. The third reason is, if I had to add, is Jansuraj, kind of the political temperature of the state. Prashant Kishor has been traveling around, the district for nearly 3 years now. Whether he manages finally, at least to get some vote percentage, we'll get to know. But it has at least enthused a whole lot of people. That's what I have been reading about Bihar. And the other thing is, of course, the enthusiastic participation of women. That we'll discuss in detail. But before that, I want to ask you, Sanjay, whether these are the valid reasons.
So far, the first issue is concerned. You said, sir, that after SIR, the allegation is that vote chori allegation mainly by Congress party. I am very much surprised. Altogether, 76 lakhs of vote was cut off from the voter list, and around 20 lakhs were added. So finally, there was 50 lakhs of voters were cut off from the voter list. So in that scenario, it's very surprising that this high turnout of votes, how it happened, it is beyond my understanding. The first thing. And the second thing, that's, you are saying that voters are very enthusiastic to vote for this time, but that is also cannot be definitely said that voters were very enthusiastic. So these two things cannot be said with certainty. And the other points you raise, can you repeat those two other points?
Yeah. So one I was saying about the migrants issue, which is related to the vote chori campaign only. Many of them, since it's also
Mhm.
got muddled with citizenship issue. The
Mhm.
other is Jan Suraaj constant campaign for last 2 3 years, raising the
Yeah.
political atmosphere in the state in general. And of
Uh,
course, Chhat
uh,
Puja. Many people might have stayed back.
mhm. So for migration, migration issue is concerned that many people were persuaded from different states where they have migrated Biharis that they should come and vote for. Definitely, this can be partially said, and in the last in the last in the second phase, before the second phase, that allegation that four special trains were run from Haryana to just to carry all those items to their home constituency and participate it. That cannot be definitely said that they will increase that percentage of voting, which we are already just observing. So that is that can be people in this season, in this festival season, they return back to their homes, and this may be the case at this high percentage. But even that cannot be. It's all-time high. This percentage, it's beyond 60%, and 10% of a vote increase. And Bihar is a very volatile state in terms, even 2% of swing of votes in favor of some parties can can turn into 14% of losing seats. So this situation is there. So in that situation, if this turn happens in Bihar, then the result will be a very upside down. So this is the situation. So just before that, I have also said that there may be hung assembly, but if there is some clear-cut majority, in my opinion, it will go to Mahagathbandhan. It can, and in that survey, which you have already put some time back, uh, Jan Suraj party was given only one seat. So that is also not true, and others, they were marginalized in that survey. So it doesn't appear a very authentic and very scientific survey. So far, I consider it.
Okay, now let's take up one by one the issues. I'll first go to Anand. Anand, for a moment, even if you assume that it probably has worked for NDA the way the exit polls are saying, though all of you have in a way turned down exit poll as something which you won't trust. Uh, what perhaps in this entire campaign worked for NDA and what didn't work for them?
Srini, before I address this question directly, can I go in for a very, very small diversion? A few days ago, after the round one of the voting on November the 6th, after that, I saw a very interesting report, an analysis made in a big national, so-called national newspaper out of Patna. Obviously, the person who did it was a senior person, experienced person. And his finding was that the history so far had been that whenever the voting percent crossed 60, it was Lalu Yadav who won. And he uses Lalu and Nitish Kumar because they were two friends from the JP movement, and then they turned rivals later. And Lalu is also a shortcut for the present opposition grouping. So anything above 60, always Lalu won, and anything below 60, always Nitish won. This was the historical trend that this writer was talking about, and he gave numerous examples. That's one thing. Two, typically in our country, a very high voting has tended to favor the insurgents, you know, and not those who have, not the incumbents. Now, keeping that at the back of one's mind, today now, if you take the average of today and November 6th, the average comes to 66, I think, somewhere around that. Not to be very precise, but around that, which is way, way, way above the norm. So really, I do not know what results will be thrown up. I have a point to make here, which is that in several other assemblies we have seen ballot stuffing done through the election commission, their machinations. We have seen ballot deletions. Deletions were open, out in the open through the SIR process. But ballot stuffing of a certain kind in certain constituencies, in certain regions. That's one. And two, we have forgotten the long forgotten EVM, the dear old EVM, how that played havoc. And so, really speaking, in this case, will a much higher turnout than is the norm in Bihar? Will it necessarily go in favor of opponents of the government? I cannot say. If there is fiddling with the ballot system through the machinery, which is meant to be impartial and keep up the flag of democracy, if there is something seriously wrong, then of course you can go on fighting it in the court later or making political noise on the street. But the result has been sanctified, A few signatures made and the result is out. So this is the situation we unfortunately live in this country. Therefore, on merits, if we have to make up our minds about, to come back to the question you asked, about what may have gone in the NDA's favor if these results turn out to be valid. If these exit poll guesses, in my mind, plain and simple, pure guesswork, actually turns out to be valid, turns out to be the actual result. I have surprised myself on numerous occasions when my predictions have been dead center. And where did I make those predictions? Sitting at my desk in my office, wherever I was working at that point of time. Nothing scientific about it. It was pure horse sense, right? You might call it a fluke. So exactly. So if the real question is, what are the positives of the last 5 years by the Nitish Kumar government?
Yeah. So
I really
I'll
have to
interject you
look
here.
very far.
Anand, I have to give a little thing here. I mean, I don't know how relevant it is, but it's still interesting. Pranay Roy, who has done a lot of studies in his book, has said that for a while now, he has divided India's election to 3 phases. And he has converted them. The first phase is, pro-incumbency, then anti-incumbency. And he says, perhaps this is a phase of incumbency. And probably people want government to continue because of the development works which has seen in the past. So one thing, everyone said that there is nothing people are saying negative about Nitish Kumar in the current, government he has run for the last 5 years. Though there are many problems, overall they have nothing much to say against Nitish Kumar in particular. And the second thing is also, is it kind of a gift they are given to, a parting gift, or I don't know how you would say, a return gift to Nitish Kumar, as there were worries that he may not return as a chief minister.
Yeah. So if I may just come back on this, I think Pranay is one of the finest, econometricians who was studying polling data, etc., in his time. And but the observation you made, you read out, or you recalled, was nothing to do with that science. It was a political observation, that because of the infrastructure, etc. Now, the infrastructure work, meaning roads basically, and power situation is improved. Uh, Building of roads is not in the last 5 years, really. That happened, a lot earlier. I remember being visiting Bihar at that time, standing on the road. I traveled widely on those very, very fresh new roads, which looked very impressive. And my sense was that this place, there is no trade going, nothing going on, no economic activity as such. So, are these roads going to be white elephants, or will they be put to any economic use? You know, and since then, if anything, the situation of Bihar in terms of supply of labor to the Indian market has only increased. Bihar today is a colony of the rest of India, or let us say of the most advanced states of India in terms of economic markers. It continues to supply labor on a massive scale, and in the most ironical way, we were made aware of this during the COVID period, when every bicycle going from Gurgaon to Delhi to Bihar, to North Bihar, bicycle, ill person being carried on the bicycle. There was this very moving story of this young girl who rode the bicycle with her father on the back seat. I don't know how many thousand kilometers that is from Gurgaon to her home in North Bihar. Such stories that you found, and some lost their lives on the railway tracks, etc., coming from elsewhere. So this was living proof, if there can be any, of the negation of what my friend Prannoy says, in this regard. Because Prannoy is not talking about, the book that he and David Butler and my old classmate Lahiri have written together. That science is not being deployed here in this observation. Here he's saying that people may thank him for give him a good return gift, etc. Having said this, say one thing: in Bihar, from whatever I am aware, people do not badmouth Sri Nitish Kumar. He is generally, on the whole, people have fair amount of goodwill for him, whether they vote for him or not. They think he has been a good person. He has, been very useful for Bihar at a certain point of time. But to carry that forward to a discussion on the last 5 years and the present voting, I think he has been among the more the lesser performing chief ministers of India in the last 5 years.
Okay, so I'm related to one of this question, which I thought I will ask you later, but then I will. I'll right away ask you that, because it's related to this. That one of the things which is being said about Nitish Kumar, that he actually went out of the way to kind of, uh, for women welfare, and there are a number of reasons which are being given in the past that which he has done, and therefore, he has managed to kind of create a constancy for himself through that. Uh, Now, there are other things about the turnout itself, whether that data is not known, which Tejashwi Yadav wanted after the first phase. He held a press conference to say that, these numbers have not been given, which he raised objection, which he said that even when the manual polls were being done, these numbers are given, and why not now? Now, the other question is also that, probably it appears that more women have come out to vote, but if you had to look at the, sex ratio in Bihar, the pretty skewed ratio, and therefore, if more women also turned out, probably the number of voters would almost be same, men and women. That's another thing. So, how do you look at this theory of more women voters perhaps favoring Nitish?
Okay. So, well, if the federal publishes something which I've sent them this afternoon, then some of this is answered there. But basically, I think the most telling reason why there was a sense that women have opted for Nitish Kumar over some time now was in 2016, April 2016, when prohibition was imposed on Bihar. That gave a very big relief to women in many ways. The husband was not throwing money away on alcohol. He was not indulging in intimate violence at home as a result of getting drunk. But the benefits, therefore, there was a very big upsurge of sympathy for him, not only among the women, but among some other people also. But since then, the damn thing is available, the alcohol, at many times the old price. And it's causing a lot of deaths as well, because people are drinking anything which comes their way. That's one thing. Two, if you look at the data of 2020, you will see that the women votes that the NDA got was 38%, and the women votes overall that the Gathbandhan got was 37%, 1% less. So can we then say that there's been such a massive upsurge from women voters for because of Nitish Kumar for the NDA? I do not know. The data speaks otherwise. And I was really struck by a point which I read in detail in the Hindu 2 days ago, 2 or 3 days ago, where the factor taken up by the social activist, uh, what's her name, Hashmi,
Shabnam.
she has traveled for the last 6 weeks in Bihar, visiting 20 districts, only rural Bihar, and spoken to 6,500 women personally. And she is saying that much of what she's picking up on the ground is that they are thankful to the government for giving them 10,000 rupees. Many of them would get that money. Some have already got it. In fact, the election commission looked the other way as money was being delivered into their bank account during the process when the polling was going on also, you know. So, I mean, this is open partiality. But that aside, the same women who received the money, very large numbers of them were saying that this 10,000 rupees, we are grateful for it, but this will take care of our installments, loan installments from microfinance finance companies for a few installments. And then what do we have after that? We've got nothing. They've run up debts up to 1 lakh, 2 lakh, in some cases even 5 lakh rupees, taken over a period of time for small things of daily necessities. The Hindu story confirming this debt trap, which never ends, shows an RBI authenticated data to say that 15% of all monies owed to these microfinance companies is from Bihar. 15%, which is the highest in the country, and the amount is 57,172 crore rupees.
Yeah.
So the Hindu, which came out a little later than this lady was talking, Shabnam, is confirming after studying the picture what she is saying. And then she's citing those women to say that these chaps, they call it kisti. Kisti lene ke liye aa jate hain har hafte, every week now they have to give, return the money. It's not a monthly thing. And they'll sit there, and there are young girls, young women sitting at home, nobody else, etc. sometimes. And that leads to those kinds of issues with women. It has led to suicides. I do not know what the data is in Bihar on this matter. And I'm sorry to say that the media, the so-called national media,
Yeah. Yeah.
concerns
Thanks,
itself
thanks, Anand.
primarily
I
with
will.
the politics
Yeah.
of power
So,
and not.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Anand. I will invite my readers to read your column tomorrow, which will carry this in detail. I'm sure they'll benefit out of that. But I'll now go to the next question and pose this to Nilanjan. Nilanjan, how do you look at the BJP's prospect in this election after the two phases of polling? You see, they have played, second fiddle for JDU for 5 years. Though they have nearly got a double number of seats last time in 2020, they still allowed them to, you know, they backed the government and they were contented with two chief ministers. Uh, I'm sure they have the ambition, like Maharashtra, that they should be in the driving seat rather than allowing this to JDU. But then they have other compulsions. At the center, they have to have the backing of, they need Nitish support as well, because the government at the center is, let's remember, based on those crutches. So in this situation, how do you look at the prospect of uh, BJP, and what is that you think would be crossing their minds now?
Thank you, Srini. Uh, you know, Before responding to your question, there are 2 points on which I want to respond to, which has been discussed previously. The first is on the high turnout. Now, you listed out three reasons. I would like to add a fourth reason, which is purely based on a statistical model. And let me give a disclaimer that I am not a statistician. This is purely logical thinking. Today, Bihar, after the SIR, has a confirmed voter list of total of 7.43 crore people. 65 lakh voters were deleted in the process of SIR. Now, if the electorate list in the previous elections, we are actually comparing it with what happened in the previous elections. So from that time onward, the number of voters has reduced. If it reduces, and if you have the same amount of people turning out, in terms of the old percentage also, but it is going to redo. Like in the previous elections, out of every 100 voters, 63 turned out. Now this time say that about 8% has been lopped off. So out of 92, the same 63 people stand out, say come to vote, then it is not going to be 63%, but it is going to be more than what is there. So I think we have to, when we look at this uh, turnout, that is also we need to figure out that there has been some kind of a you know s- change, alteration in the way the voters are listed and the number of voters who are there, saying that the majority of people had died and all that. Anyway, we're not going into that. The second is that after years of looking at elections and turnout, this every election we keep on debating that high election means anti-incumbency vote. A high turnout means that there is an anti-incumbency vote, and if it is low, then it means that it is beneficial for the ruling party. That is not, it does not get borne out statistically by, if you go back and look at the results after it is over. It's very rarely that after the first hour of the day on the counting, nobody even refers to what the exit polls said. Exit polls said, and so if they're correct or not, it gets completely jumped. The second point on which I wanted to say is this alcohol, this prohibition point. Let me remind that after Gujarat, one of the states where the longest anti-alcohol agitation was continued was Uttarakhand. Uttarakhand was one state, right from the 80s onwards. I remember, and even now, there is a very strong anti-liquor, anti-alcohol campaign going on in the state. But despite making promises in the years then Uttarakhand had not been formed, the BJP, after coming to power, and even in the years when the Congress was in power in Uttarakhand, after coming to power, the BJP has not taken a step in making Uttarakhand alcohol free. Yet they have been winning, and in fact, they have won every election in the recent years. So I do not think that this perception that women get very happy because of prohibition, and that is why they are voting for Nitish Kumar. That is the general belief which they are trying to propagate, but I do not think so. And also, as Anand pointed out in the later part of his statement on alcohol business, that you keep on going, that if you drive through Bihar, you will get alcohol at every step. I have been, for family reasons, I have my family there. So keep on visiting Bihar, and it is easily available. All that you require, the right contacts, just the way that is as well organized as it is in Gujarat. You virtually have, doorstep delivery. So alcohol not being available, on the contrary, this is pure anecdotal thing. Women I have heard, I've spoken to in various trips of Bihar. They say that, what's the fun of introducing prohibition, because now the men in our families, they spend much more. Okay, you can't suddenly have, because of prohibition, a situation where people give up the alcohol. In the initial first few months, it might have created a problem to set the supply lines going again. So that is the problem. Now, as far as the question on the BJP is concerned, my first observation is that the BJP has been very strong on this Jungle Raj campaign. But Jungle Raj is actually, I think that it is possibly well beyond its use by date. Today's voter in the age group of say 20 to 30, for them Jungle Raj has no meaning. It is just something which has been passed on from, within their family from the previous generations. So they have not really experienced it. Development, you require something to juxtapose it with. You will have to, the BJP JDU alliance definitely got a lot of benefits in the elections. I mean, the 5 years or 7 years after Nitish Kumar became the chief minister in 2004, and thereafter 2004, 2005 onwards, And but now I think the problem is that to a great extent, development in India has come to mean highways. Right from Gujarat to Bengal, everywhere, development means highways. It's not really generating more jobs. You can actually go and discover the Gujarat model and actually find that how many jobs have been generated per lakh people between the years that Modi was chief minister and even after that. You'll actually get the picture correctly. So even highways, the roads are concerned. That is the rosy picture of development stops at Patna, and even in Patna, mind you, the majority of the run, the flyovers which came up have come up in, came up right in the beginning after Nitish Kumar became the chief minister. There are some good highways on connecting big cities of that, but then equally there are places where you have absolutely as bad roads as it used to be in the 1980s and early 90s when we used to go to Bihar for reporting. I have actually traveled from Gorakhpur, which is definitely a very prestigious city given that the UP chief ministers come from there. And from there, I have driven to Champaran, a place which does not need to be, told to people that it is such an important place, which has great symbolic as well as political value. Uh, that entire 200-kilometer road stretch, it's just a single road, and there in that entire journey, you will not find a single place where you can stop where there is a clean toilet. The clean toilet, forget it. There are not even dirty toilets. You have to actually litter the area around the road. So that is the basic problem. So it is very selective. You just have a few highways which are there, which are fairly good, but beyond that, nothing. Even now, you know, uh, as somebody pointed out, that Bihar is actually the supplier of cheap labor. You were talking about the COVID period. We have this award-winning film Homeward Bound, which is being screened currently at the moment, which actually says a terrible, terrible story of the COVID years. So I think that the BJP's uh, you know prospects essentially depend on whether it has been able to successfully market the aggressive Hindutva campaign by saying ki Ghuspaitias bahar se, people are coming from outside. But this slogan had been a complete failure in Jharkhand. I'm not saying that the politics is the same in the two states, Jharkhand and Bihar, even though they were at one point, part of the same united Bihar. But nonetheless, the fact is that this campaign that Bangladeshi Muslims are coming into India and taking away all the goodies from the Hindus, that did not work in Jharkhand, and I'm not very sure that how much it is going to work in Bihar. If it does, then I would feel that we would be able to say that well, Hindutva has become ingrained in the psyche of the people of Bihar. We still do not have any evidence. We used to say in the 1990s, you would remember when the BJP started doing very well in Uttar Pradesh, that Bihar is a bulwark against the rise of Hindutva forces in northern India. You remember with Lalu Yadav was so confident of getting the people's support when he decided to arrest Lal Krishna Advani. Now, from that kind of politics, has the BJP and the JDU been able to bring about a kind of a transformation? If it has, then the question really raises that where does Nitish Kumar stand? Because Nitish Kumar, through that entire period of his partnership with the BJP, has not at all tilted in favor of Hindutva politics. He's always tried to retain his constituency within the minority community. He may not have succeeded, but that does not mean that he's ever tilted and become as pro Hindutva as the BJP is. So I really do not know that what the BJP has really campaigned on. It has tried to clutch onto various straws. If any of these work, then I would say that we will definitely be able to analyze it once we have the results with us.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Nilanjan. I will quickly go to Puneet now. This I want to, can you just try to answer this question as briefly as possible because I think we are spending a lot of time on this. The question of how Congress has fared, because if Ghuspetia is an issue, what has been its response? It initially seemed to have raised, a lot of expectation for Congress party. A lot of crowds came and they were energetic, attended. Those are the kind of visuals we saw. But it seems to have petered off as the election proceeded, especially when the ticket distribution happened after that. I mean, what happened there? And do you think, in a way, he prepared the ground, Rahul, but then it was left to uh, Tejashwi, and also the Tejashwi's rise. Has he managed to be a leader of in his own right, leaving besides the legacy of Lalu and his mother, like Naranjan is pointing out, the Janangal Raj is a matter of past.
Well, as far as the Congress is concerned, and your question on the Guspetia narrative, from wherever I traveled in the state, the only place where I found resonance for on this issue of Guspetia was actually resonance against the BJP's narrative, which was in the Simanchal districts, in and some part of Supal. But barring that region, it's not a narrative that kind of uh, gained a lot of traction anywhere else in Bihar. At least I did not find people talking about it as an issue that will determine which way they vote. But the other aspect that you ask about the way Rahul built up the campaign and then what happened to it, I think that's been a running challenge for the Congress party, where you may have Rahul do his Bharat Jodo Yatra, you may have him come and do Nyay Yatras, rallies, and Voter Adhikar Yatra in the context of Bihar, and then the state leadership just drops the ball. So you see factional feuds come into play. You see people just becoming very complacent at the grassroots. In the case of Bihar, also organizational issues at the grassroots where you don't have proper, district committees, block committees, and all of that. So those were challenges, and those challenges were very apparent all through the election in most constituencies where the Congress fielded and insisted on fielding 60 odd candidates. So I would not be surprised if the Congress's performance again this election mirrors what it was in 2020, when it contested 70 plus seats and ended up getting just about 19. This time they're contesting 60. I don't think the result is going to be very different. Now, as far as Tejashwi is concerned, it's a yes and no sort of an answer on whether he's stepped out of Lalu's shadow. He's certainly come into his own as a leader. But this particular election, compared to 2020, this election, he's also gone and made a lot of blunders which he could have very easily avoided. In a lot of the constituencies, a lot of the areas, including very traditional, hardcore RJD voting areas that I visited, people were not very happy with the way he's been operating, or he's been running the campaign, he's been acting as a leader and all of that. I'll give you one small example of, on the, I think this was on the 31st or the 1st or 31st of October or the 1st of November. And it had been raining very heavily in Bihar. And I was also stuck in Darbhanga that day. And Tejashwi was supposed to address a couple of rallies. He did not go to address those rallies, and he cancelled all his programs that day. Whereas Nitish Kumar, this 74-year-old man who Tejashwi constantly mocked as an achet Mukhyamantri, as a unconscious or a clueless chief minister who's in poor health and all of that, was also supposed to go to Darbhanga was supposed to go to this constituency called Jale, and he decided to take the road. He drove down because his helicopter couldn't take off, and then at a point where there was just, I think the road was in a mess, or I guess it was too waterlogged. He got off his car and just walked down to the place. And that really, sent across a bad message for Tejashwi, because what was Tejashwi doing at that time? Putting out reels on Instagram. So there are those challenges also that were very visible in this election. People raised questions on his seriousness. People raised questions also on whether he was becoming an increasingly insecure leader. I happened to go to Mahua, where Tej Pratap, his Tejashwi's brother, was contesting the election. Now, of course, it's politics, it's election. You field candidates, all of that. Theory, logic, everything is fine. But a lot of people in Mahua were very unhappy at the fact that Tejashwi fielded a candidate against his brother who had been expelled from the RJD some months ago. And eventually the RJD may still end up winning that seat, or, losing it by a very close margin. But it did not send a good message. And there were enough number of people that I met who constantly complained that, this is what Tejashwi is doing. This shows insecurity, which is never good for a leader. He did this to his brother. He's doing this to Mukesh Sahani. He's doing the same thing with the Congress. He's not allowing anyone else because he's insecure. So there are also those questions that, at least, this is on the ground. What I'm telling you is what I've picked up from my travels. I'm not going to go into theories or conventional wisdom or all of that in terms of how this plays out. But on the ground, this is what was very, very apparent. Whether that has cost the RJD in terms of the election, I don't know. I'd much rather wait for the results than to say it based on what the exit polls are predicting.
Let's wait for that. I wanted to go quickly to Sanjay Kumar, but then I think
he's lost the connection.
So, quickly, he's back now. Sanjay Kumar, can you hear me? Can you hear us? Yeah, okay. So I want to ask you a quick question.
I can hear.
The way the politics in Bihar is structured after the decline of Congress is basically the two alliances now. It is either an alliance headed by JDU or an alliance by RJD. And then there are other parties and there is a coalition which is built around it. Now we have discussed BJP, we have discussed Congress, we have discussed individually Nitish and Tejashwi also. But I want you to quickly weigh on about other parties. What has been their role, like you think in this election? LJP, because he last time, this time he has actually contested as a part of the alliance. Whether he has, how has he played his hand there? Uh, you know, uh, the other one is Ham, and whether the overall social engineering of both sides have any impact on this, because both sides have tried to have their own, equations here. And I think I packed many things into this question. I'll leave it at that. I think we lost connection. So we'll come back to that. Before that, I just want to ask you, gentlemen, your views on Prashant Kishor's party, which was considered a third force, which probably would appear as a third force, which whether you see any signs of that emerging or not. If I can quickly go, I'll start with Anand. Can you just quickly say this, because we are running out of time? You can just quickly say, what do you think of Prashant Kishor?
Yes, I think Prashant Kishor attracted. I mean, he attracted a lot of attention. He has, from whatever I've heard. I have not been to Bihar lately, and he comes on. He comes on very well. He takes up all the right issues to speak about. He's very articulate, very forceful, very dynamic. All of that. But I think he would have had far greater traction had he come from the, non-upper caste background. You know, he might have had greater following then. Bihar, in very many ways, still you can transcend the caste factor when you come to vote also. But that tag, people do not lose sight of very easily. I think that will be a handicap for him. And he is competing against these very, very old veteran parties and individuals with entrenched power structures like the NDA, or earlier the entrenched power structure and social structure that was with the with Lalu's party, etc., and all of that. Congress, of course, is absent totally, in organization terms. So let's not talk about that today. Why that happened, that's a different story. But I think Prashant Kishore has tried. He has helped to raise a lot of awareness about lots of things. But I think his time will come later.
Okay, thanks. Quickly, Nilanjan, what is your impression about this Prashant Kishor's debut?
Well, I think, he was basically, as far as this election is concerned, he was essentially a media creation. It is the media which read too much into the fact that he was able to package what was happening in fairly comprehensible terms for the visiting journalists. They are the ones who first started writing from Bihar that
Perhaps he was the most interviewed person.
most interviewed, because he's very logical, and he speaks in the same lingo which you and I would be understanding. I had a very long interaction with him in during the 2015 election. That is the time when he was said to be the person who actually stitched the Nitish Kumar Lalu Yadav alliance, which actually swept out the the NDA at that time, Bihar BJP at that time. But so he is very good at that, being able to decode a lot of things which are not understood by people who do not report from Bihar every day. I do not know if we can have, if anybody has done a survey of the Bihar journalists, the local reporters, as to what they thought about Prashant Kishore. I have not come across any such report based on their opinion. Not just reporters, but people who are part of Bihar's socio-political milieu. Maybe Dr. Sanjay Kumar would be able to tell us, if we are able to connect with him, as to how the people who are connected somehow more to the ground in Bihar, to the
Yeah.
politics and the
Okay.
political discourse going on, they would be able to say. But my assessment is that if Prashant Kishore continues to be consistent in approaching the people, staying in touch with the people, and builds a constituency, he would be a significant force in the next parliamentary elections. Maybe not win too many seats, maybe not even win even a single seat, but he would be having political future. If he does not do that, then it is going to be just, come once and then gone and
Flash
forgotten.
in the pan, yeah, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Thank you. Quickly, Puneet, since I don't think we're able to connect to Dr. Sanjay, that question I would like to answer you quickly. How do you see this social equations playing out, which politicians in Bihar do it marvelously?
Social equations in sorry, I in what sense, Srini?
I was basically saying that, it's basically two large alliances which fight election in Bihar. After the decline of Congress Party, one pole being now JDU, the other pole being, RJD. And then they both have done very intricate social equations, because the last survey, they know approximately what are the various things out of that. EBCs have come out as a major number, so obviously their equations have been worked out in relation to that. So how do you think that ticket distribution has had impact on the ground?
Yeah, so I think this was one election, Srini, where there was a lot of scope and a lot of opportunity for the entrenched caste equations to be altered to some to some extent by both both the groupings, and particularly the Grand Alliance. And the Grand Alliance did make a lot of effort over the last few months, with its outreach to the EBCs, the outreach to the Dalits, and all of that, because that was one community that had over the years consolidated behind the NDA because of Nitish Kumar's politics in Bihar. Uh, but I think where they kind of lost the plot to an extent was how the election eventually panned out, and right from the ticket distribution onwards. If you look at how Nitish distributed his tickets, irrespective of whatever the results for JDU would be, but if you look at the caste mix for Nitish, I think that was the caste mix that the RJD and the Congress should have gone for, but did not. Instead, what happened, especially the last one month or 3 weeks before, they finally came to an agreement on seat sharing, and still had 11 seats where they were contesting against each other, the Grand Alliance partners. They ended up running after upper castes instead of running after the EBCs for whom they'd been talking, for the last several months. And and that's how you saw over the, just 2 weeks before the election, the RJD trying to induct Bhumiyar leaders, Brahmin leaders, the Congress trying to induct Bhumiyars and Brahmins and Thakurs, and out of the 60 odd seats that the Congress contested, out of which I think 11 or 12 were reserved category seats. In the remaining, 48 seats, 50% are upper caste candidates. So what happens to your outreach for EBCs and your representation and bhagidari politics? Same with the case of the RJD, where they went ahead with about 12 or 14 Bhumiyar candidates, as many Brahmins, and then the Dulalchand murder instance happened in Mokama, which of course the RJD couldn't have foreseen. But that kind of uh, led to a very different consolidation on the ground, where the Yadavs may have rallied, the few who may be considering going against the RJD, went along with the RJD, but the Bhumiyar vote that the RJD was hoping to really capture with these 14 odd Bhumiyar candidates, several of them with rather checkered pasts, uh, were finding it very difficult, including Shivani Shukla in Lalganj, who's Munna Shukla's daughter. So these were constituencies where these social equations that you're talking about, the possibility of change there, the Grand Alliance had problems. But it's not as if the NDA did not have its own share of issues, because while it was not as apparent as it was in the case of the Grand Alliance, in the NDA, there was very clear friction on the ground between the cadres of the JDU and the other allies, in, BJP, LJP, Kushwaha, the Rashtriya Lok Morcha, the Hindustani Awam Morcha. There were several constituencies, I can name those. In 29 of these constituencies where LJP fielded candidates, the JDU cadre simply did not go out, simply sat at home, because they said that, this is Chirag is being used by the BJP to undermine Nitish. So no Koris, Kushwas, the other castes that rally behind Nitish, we're not going to vote for him. Let him win solely based on the Dushad vote. So there were problems that side too. It's not just a one-sided thing in that sense.
Yeah, thanks, Puneet. I'm stopping you there because we're running out of time. Thank you very much. It's been a very interesting discussion. The two broad things which come out today. One is, of course, a very high vote percentage. So what is the implication of that? We'll have to wait and see after 3 days. And the second is, none of us here on this, all of you have voted against the exit polls, though it has all gone in one direction. Let's wait and see. There are 3 more days. We'll discuss more. It's been a very fascinating discussion. Thank you very much. Bye.